Welcome to Project Holmstock, the collaborative Cities Skylines 2 series where creativity and attention to detail bring our shared vision to life. We'll be using the beautiful map Holmstock created by Poplar Ponderosa, which provides the perfect foundation for what's to come. In the last episode, Piccana delivered an incredible highway megaproject, both detailed and functional, and now it's my turn to build a realistic starter town. This will have an organic grid system inspired by the historical European urban layouts, and this will provide the basic services, connections, and room for future growth. And to connect this place to the region, we will venture into some highway construction ourselves too, editing the existing highways on the map, adding a stunning truss bridge with a scenic rail line. We'll also complete our build with all the details you'd expect that bring the history and character of the city to life, creating a vibrant starting point for Holmstock's evolution. The layout takes inspiration from an urban European style. There is a grid, but it's fractured and organically pieced together. It's not perfect, nor is it really based on any particular location, but it's a starting point. And sometimes just getting something down is the best way to push forward, and this process has been a great exercise for me. And a quick note before we dive in, while this is a detailer's build, today's details will stay fairly broad. I want to leave room for future creators to interpret and build on what we start here. None of this is precious, and I fully expect it to evolve and be transformed as the city grows. Kind of just went with the flow, didn't really plan on creating anything specific. If we have a look at the topography in the area, it's all very flat around here, and I wanted it to have a mix of organic and grid systems, and I was quite careful to preserve the actual zoning grid in here so that it wasn't too broken. I think the plan is, especially at this stage, just to quickly zone a few houses, a few businesses, and kind of create what kind of looks like a substantial settlement from afar at least. I'd say the main road is probably this one here, which is Strawberry Street, so I'm going to call this one High Street. And then I think we can probably place a few shops along here. And then for the rest of this, I'd probably just want to have mostly residential. And for industry, if we have a quick look at the wind, the air pollution, yeah, so it's all heading out that way. So we could have a look at putting a small industrial area just by this body of water. Whether that kind of stays in that spot, I'm not 100% sure. Now, it's well and good having this here, but we are on an island and we currently don't have any way to get to our new community. I'm thinking we probably want to create a new bridge crossing. We've got the highway down here that comes with the map, and then we've got Piccana's addition that goes off to the corner of the map up here. And I'm thinking we could make some slight adjustments. I see that we've got this slight piece of land that's sticking out of the water here. And instead of having the highway going straight on and hitting what is quite a substantial geographical boundary, we could have it curve off, go across this water here, head towards this bluff, and then we can bridge across. And I want to make sure that the bridge that we put in here is high enough for boats to come through, because as you can see, there's the potential of quite a substantial port in this area. So to ensure that we're navigating this area carefully, let's place down a temporary sea lane. I'm just going to put a straight segment in like that. And then I think let's use the highway truss arch bridge. I think that'd be really nice through here. And we would come down to the lowest level before you get to sea level. You can see this would just be way too low. So we definitely need to start up here on the hill. And then I think we could aim for this hill here. And that should allow us to be able to maybe place some roads underneath the bridge and just create a few more layers in the city just to make it a little bit more interesting. So with that bridge in place, you can see that we've got a slight wider arch that goes over the sea lane, which is perfect. And then the rest of the arches, we've got 3 here and 2 here, which seem to be evenly sized. I removed the arch bridge from the end sections, and I'll also add a little bit of a retaining wall on the segments closer to the ground. And I'll do that in a second. But first, I also want to take a look at bringing over the rail. Now, if you've got Tygon's rail asset pack, you'll be able to take advantage of some of the custom assets that he's created. And included in that is also a rail truss arch bridge. I'm probably going to go for the non-electrified version and mostly use non-electrified trains through here. And I'm hoping if we've got all our correct snapping tools on, which I'm just going to play the lottery and keep them all. If we can snap to the side of this, bring this as close as possible, and we should just be able to pull this all the way across, and those columns should fit in the same places as the road. So a quick look at that. Oh, look at that shadow. Doesn't that look gorgeous? Anyway, I think it did a pretty good job. It's a little bit off, so we can just come through here with a little bit of move it. But I think this is just an absolutely stunning landmark to have in the area. And you can see down here where I said that we could have a road coming under here. And this could be some sort of industrial area along this edge of water. And then over here we just need to wind the road down back to ground level, and it will have to take a little bit more of a slower decline with the rail, just so that we're not creating too many unrealistic gradients. But we are playing a game at the end of the day, and I don't mind doing something that's slightly less than realistic. Okay, so this section is pretty much complete. It's very lightly detailed. Okay, there's no detail at all. So yeah, this is probably going to need a redo in the future, but that's absolutely fine. Today I just want to connect the town to the outside world, and I think this is a good enough connection, if any. And yeah, it's a little bit wobbly, it's a little bit shaky, but I'm not really seeing this as a main highway through the area, but more of a local road, a local major road. So it's definitely a little bit dodgy in areas, so I'll just fix those. There we go, much better. Yeah, like I said, this is probably one of the minor major roads that come through the area. Certainly not a highway, and as we just have it terminating into a roundabout, it's yeah, probably not the most ideal, but we've got the bridge across, and now that we've got this end kind of in a good place, I'm going to thread the road down towards the town, and then at least we've got our first connection. I don't mind carving into these hills just a little bit. I imagine that some landscaping would have been needed when building this road, especially with such a prominent bridge in the area. This corner down here is a little bit sharp, but it looks okay to me. And I did notice we got a little bit of a wonky road at the end here. We could just move it and straighten that out just a little bit, and then we should all be hunky-dory. Alright, so we've got the road, we've got the rail in place now. I've tried to keep the rail as smooth as possible. I think the gradient was probably no more than 2.5, and that's probably for a very short section, mostly 2% all the way through here. We did have to cut up some of the landscape, but I think that's okay. And we've got a couple of elevated sections here, which I'm not too keen on, so if we just go back to the track selection and then turn off the retaining wall, and using the anarchy to the ground feature, we can upgrade this, and then that gives us a nice ground segment, although we might want to add a little bit of a retaining wall just up on this side. There we go, and it does look quite harsh, but what we can do is if we grab the slope terrain tool, what's pretty handy about the slope terrain tool is if you follow the path of a network, it will change the height as it moves along, so you don't need to worry about setting the height, just as long as you keep your mouse on the network, and then we can just come to these sides and just make these embankments seem a little bit more natural, more smooth. Not natural because they are man-made, but they fit better into the area. Yeah, I think that'll look quite nice. And there we go. We've got a little bit of glitchiness here where we're not getting the proper rendering, so I wonder whether we could just again come in here and use the upgrade tool, and there we go. Yeah, it lets us do that, and I can just imagine one day there just being some graffiti on here underneath the rail bridge, but keeping the bridge spans as short as possible, keeping the rail on the ground, keeping it nice and straight. The corners are nice and smooth, and this is starting to look like a nice complex piece of infrastructure down here, and that wasn't kind of the intention for today's episode, but I'm happy with it. Over here, we need to still figure out where we want to put the train station. I did leave a gap on this side, so perhaps that's something we could aim for. And talking about train stations, I probably just want to keep something fairly small. I quite like the French one. This does look like quite a nice local train station to me, so we could place that in here. And again, a lot of this is just temporary. I just want to set up a small town, and that doesn't seem to be rendering correctly, so let me just reload my game. Okay, so yeah, the French train station I think could sit there quite nicely, and the train line could even just wrap around this corner here, and then that kind of makes this road configuration kind of make a little bit more sense. As I said earlier, I was just kind of like doodling with roads. There wasn't necessarily any rhyme or reason to why these were like this, and we can find a use for them as we start to develop the town. So with this, let's follow the edge of this road here, and we could even use our complex curve tool. So if we just come up to here and then keep that nice and straight, and then we can come into this side here, I think. Pretty nice. And that should give us a nice sweeping curve. Nothing too crazy. And then for this one here, we could probably just curve this out, make a nice gradual connection. That looks quite nice. And then yeah, we just need to connect it up to the rail bridge up here, and we'll probably sweep this around. And yeah, we'll be in a good spot to start placing some buildings. Whoa, look at that. Doesn't that just look absolutely stunning? Love these custom assets. Absolutely incredible. And yeah, this is quite low-lying land down here, and I imagine it's probably all going to get gobbled up by the industry. But coming off this arch truss bridge, then going out onto this rail viaduct, I think it just looks great. And we could just swing this around here. I think that corner is a little bit tight, but let's just grab our rail and see if we can do this in one fell swoop, shall we? Oh yeah, that looks great. Comes in there nicely. Do need to clean up some of these roads, upgrade that, and then we get a nice bridge section. And again, we've got some of these cuts, which again, I'm not mad with. You know, you get these natural cuttings in reality, so just have to work with it and make it look good. Okay, so with the major road and the rail infrastructure in place, got a couple of these kind of boundary roads which are not really going anywhere. I think with this one down here, I probably want to head this towards what could be an industrial area. So we'll just add a little bit of a curve to this, and then we'll just take that over. And then we can start to set up some sort of industrial zone there potentially. And then these ones down here, we could potentially turn into little cul-de-sacs, or we could have these going out into this kind of like wilderness section. And I quite like that idea, so put a little road out to here. And then this one, we could have a road coming across here just to kind of round this off. I like that idea. So let's pull the road from this section here. Been very fidgety, but I will prevail. And I think this one we have going out to get like that. And this is probably the best way to build these roads, is not really to have that much in mind, especially if you're doing a European build. A lot of these roads were built slowly over many years, so this isn't a fast process, neither in game or in reality. There's going to be lots of decisions being made, but at the moment I just kind of want to round this out. Now I'm not going to connect this one up to that main road because I imagine that's going to start getting quite busy. I quite like how this one heads straight towards the train station, and yeah, I think this one will be probably the main shopping street through here. And then over here, I would, again, I was thinking having the industry here, but I quite like the idea of the industry being down by the water. And we could potentially even have it looking a little bit tired, a little bit derelict, and it just needs a little bit of love now. And somebody can come in and do that for us, because this isn't just our build, this is everybody's build. Or maybe they want to build their own town somewhere else on the map, which I think is absolutely fine. I think that's a pretty good setup, and I think it's integrated quite nicely into the build now, and I think we can start to have a look at the road types we want to go through here. Now, out here, I imagine this one would go back to some sort of rural highway, and we can set that up just by clicking this one in here. We want to make sure we get it in the nice spot. It's in the middle. Out here, again, we don't want this just to be a street heading up to the bridge, so we can also upgrade this to a highway road, and it probably mostly is. Let's have a look. Yeah, up to here, but since this is in a cutout, we don't really want anything zoning here, so we'll also upgrade this section, and we could keep that as a street, but there's not really any need for pedestrians to go along there, is there? There's nowhere really to go. And then as you come into the city, we are definitely going to need a roundabout here. We could put in a super big one for now, but I think the medium one is fine by me. And then that comes down to the high street. Have a look at pedestrianising some of it already. So I think we could pedestrianise this section here. Quite like the idea of that. And yeah, let's pedestrianise these two sections here, and then we'll kind of just leave the rest as it is. Now, I do want to use some of the alley roads, especially on some of these more peripheral roads that aren't necessarily going to be seeing that much use. It's probably a little bit more rural. I mean, even this one could just be a gravel road, right? It doesn't need to be tarmac or anything like that. I quite like that. Out the here is going to be more of an industrial area, I think. So we can drop that down to alley road. And then out here again, I was thinking this could be a little bit of an industrial area. Got a little kind of road just poking off the end there. And I think I might upgrade that to a pedestrian road just coming down here. No, there's no need. Let's change that to, yeah, the gravel road. I quite like that. And yeah, I mean, it's hard to say for certain what each road will be. I would usually piece a city together bit by bit just based on the needs. But since we're starting from scratch and it's almost like we're painting our own city, we can kind of just do our own thing and just play around with it. I don't like to leave roads just kind of blunted with a T section. I think usually there's a destination with the road, it's going somewhere. It also kind of reserves the space for future upgrades if we want to. Now, I think we could possibly put a cul-de-sac on a couple of these. I think that'll look quite nice. But with that, I think we can start to go through some of the essentials now, such as electricity. We're definitely going to need something out here, whether we go with a wind turbine, since it would be quite a small community. But I think a small coal power plant is probably the most suitable. We have a quick look at the direction of the pollution. Like I said, it's all heading towards the water's edge here, so we don't want to place it on this side of town because it's just going to cause a lot of issues. I think possibly on the end of one of these roads here, the end of this internal road meet up with the end of that place road. I like that. Next up is water, so let's find should we put a water tower out here, or should we go for the groundwater pump station? Now, do we have that much groundwater? Oh, the groundwater is actually in a spot where I was really considering putting some industry. Actually, this road out here could be seen as the road that takes you up to the pump. And then it gives this road purpose as well. Okay, next up we need to place down some water treatment, and we could possibly just dump this. But since we've got unlimited money, I'm definitely going to go for the advanced water. Should we go for the... Oh, so it's just the regular water treatment plant. So this one I know produces a lot of water pollution, or ground pollution that is. We want to keep that away from the groundwater section. So we could have a look at putting this near the coal station. Okay, next up I'm going to start placing some of the other essential services such as medical, schools, fire and police. And I'm not really going to go into too much detail with these. I just want to make sure that we've got the essential assets down, and then we can start putting some homes and businesses in. Okay, so we've got the primary services in place. We've got a police station, post office down near the train station. We've got an elementary school, and we've got a high school and a medical surgery here, along with the coal power station and a water treatment plant and a telecom tower. And with the groundwater pump up at the top, I think we're in a good place to start putting some zoning. And I think, as I said, this central road here, or maybe just in between the post office and the primary school, will be where we have most of the shops near the train station. And then as we move out, we probably have more suburban houses. I think on these squarish shaped streets, we'll probably go for terraced homes, since they're quite close to the core of the town. And similarly over here, this is probably some sort of Victorian expansion. And then we can have a look at having a few industrial units down here with a few more suburban homes just around the edges. Okay, so we're in a pretty good spot when it comes to the zoning. Everything filled in quite nicely. We do need to take a look at some of these empty gaps though, because zoning isn't always the best idea when you're trying to create a custom road layout like this. And there's a couple of sections I wanted to kind of hand create as well. So there's this section here which is amongst all these row homes, and I'd like to imagine, and this does happen in the UK, where they will demolish a lot of these historic row homes. And then through here we could probably squeeze in a few more lanes and streets and just squeeze a little bit more zoning in. And up here we've got mostly the duplexes or the semi-detached houses, whichever you prefer to say. And as I said, further out we've got more of these single family homes. And as I said, I've kept this fairly simple, and I'm not that bothered if someone wanted to come through here and just drive a highway through it. Be my guest, like this save game is all about collaborating and just playing around with each other's builds. And yeah, if we have a quick look at the shopping area, you can see we've got a lot of repeated assets. So we'll probably come through here and change some of these up with some of the different zone types. Probably still commercial, but maybe different themes. And yeah, I mean, it's looking good. I'll put those extra paths in and houses and see if we can fill this place up. Alright, as you can see, I didn't really go crazy with the detailing, but I did do a little bit. So plenty of car parking spaces around the high street area, of course. Started putting in a few trees in. We've got a little park on this side. I think that looks quite cozy. It was a really, really awkward plot of land, and I didn't really see much use into trying to squeeze in buildings when, you know, we've just got so much space. We may as well take advantage of any sort of green space as possible. Similar down here, we squeezed in again another little car park, overflow car park for this beautiful looking little pub with a little playground at the side, and then added this little crossing to take you straight over to the train station, which is probably quite a popular shortcut rather than going all the way down to the intersection. So yeah, it's looking quite good, and it's not really taking that long to just put together a few of the assets. In Find It, I've binded one of my keys. So there is a select a random asset button just here, which is really, really useful. So I've binded one of my keys to this, so I can just click on a particular category. Say I want to have a look at commercial buildings. I can simply just tap on that key and it can find lots of beautiful buildings in that genre fairly quickly. And of course you could change the filters to change different sizes for the plot, but for me, I don't really know where I'm plopping these things. This is very new to me. If you hadn't been able to tell that already, I'm not usually much of a plopper, but I'm having a lot of fun, and that's what counts. And it's slowly growing. I think for the suburban areas, probably won't do as much detail. I can't imagine there's going to be lots of parking and stuff involved. Probably be able to cover up a lot of our indecent spaces with some foliage, some trees and some bushes, and then yeah, we should be in a good place. I do also want to have a look at reducing the parking on some of these roads, especially this main road that we got going through here. I imagine there wouldn't really be that much parking along here. We don't really have that many shops, and where there are shops, they actually do have their own little parking spaces as well. So yeah, we'll start to expand on our little detailing venture, and I'll get back to you shortly. Okay, so this is all pretty much in a good place, but I really do want to get some trains down here, especially now that we've got this lovely little market in place. But we don't have a rail depot yet, and I think given the fact that we've got just so much available space on this map, I'm actually just going to go for the vanilla train depot, or the vanilla train yard that is, which is a humongous asset. If we take a quick look at the asset itself, we've got quite a large engine shed with the tracks coming out to the right side here, but I think I'd probably prefer to have it going out this way. And then with that in place, we just need to connect up some of the tracks, add in a road connection, and we should be good. Okay, and with the depot in place, I think we can start to draw our first line. So we'll start it down by our main central station. So let's pop into the transportation tool, grab the passenger line tool, and then we'll just use the platform closest to the town itself, since we won't have any other lines running here for now. And then this will go all the way out to the edge of the map, where we've got this beautiful bridge, which has a massive train traffic jam, so we'll have to have a look at that in a sec. But we'll have this coming up all the way over here, and then we'll bring this all the way back. There we go, so let's have a look at that line. And this is the Caribou, I think I'm spelling that right, I might have got it wrong. And then I'm going to call this city, or this town that we've created, Billy. And in terms of vehicle, I probably just want to go for a regular passenger train. And I did end up upgrading the tracks to all electrics. I had some strange issues with some of the networks not working properly, so I just changed it all to pretty much a vanilla tracks, except for where we're using those custom bridge segments. So I think a nice just basic European passenger train will be fantastic. And yeah, we can see that they're starting to send out the train, so they'll have to all go back and replace themselves. So we'll just let them do that. Loads of train options, but this is the one I wanted, just the standard European train. And let's just stop this before it goes any further. And let's recolor this. I'm thinking we go for just a nice green. Bring the saturation down a little bit. Nice dark green. I think will really suit the landscape. It's almost like the green represents the ground of this beautiful island, and then the white is the overcast skies. So let's just follow this along and see what the journey's like. Fantastic stuff. Fantastic journey. I would love to go on a train journey like that through this landscape. Anyway, let's formalize our new town by drawing a district. So grabbing our district creation tool, I'm just going to turn off the snapping for now, and we don't have any other districts on the map just yet, so we don't need to worry about anything clashing, so we don't need to have the anarchy on. And I'm just going to follow the train tracks for now. And the name of this new settlement, I was talking to my wife about this, and since this is a Stockholm-inspired map, I thought something from the IKEA range might be a good title. So I quite like the name of Billy. I think that's quite an iconic name that comes from the IKEA collection. And it also reminded me of some of the names that you get in Britain. such as Barry, which is where I adopted my little dog from. It was a 4.5-hour train journey, but it was absolutely worth it. And if you've never heard of Barry, it has featured in quite a popular British sitcom called Gavin and Stacey, which is admired by many and despised by others, but I'm happy to say that we've got our own little Billy, and Billy is home to 3,266 residents, 401 dogs, and it looks like you can see we've got quite a lot of empty homes. So we've got homes for 2,200, but currently only housing 1,700. Have a quick look at the residential view. You can see all these darker buildings are currently vacant. And I've tried to tell the story of this city through the build, and I may or may not mentioned it just yet, but there's areas where there is a little dissolution, so a little bit more desolate here, where perhaps there were many workers' cottages which had become rundown and have since been demolished, and now this area is open for development. Although with there being not that much demand in the area, perhaps this space will lay vacant for a little bit longer. But yeah, overall I'm pretty happy with the build. Really happy that we paid a bit more attention to the rail area. I think this will be a feature in many different people's videos, or naturally people always focus on these areas of public transport. The high street isn't as detailed as I liked. I mean, the whole build itself is fairly lightly detailed, but I'm happy that we're able to just put something together like this with all the new assets and the new roads. And if we want to see future development in the future, we're not afraid to demolish, rezone, recreate areas like this, which are much more detailed, a little bit more precious, and we might not want to remove them, but everywhere else I'm happy to see these become developed over time. And simply just using a very strong kind of gridded structure like this, it may not be 100% like real life, but it sure does make the game easier to work with, and from a distance I think it looks great. We do have this lonesome residential tower kind of just peering over the top of the neighborhood, and I imagine at one point in time in the 70s or the 60s, when this was constructed, the city was hustling and bustling, but now it's a little bit of a has-been place to be, and probably a little bit of a brain drain where there's no college, there's no university, and so a lot of the young people are probably moving away to the city to get their education. But now with Piccana's beautiful international highway in place, it's calling for investment and development in the area, and hopefully that's what we see in the future. So yeah, thank you very much for joining me on this episode. I'm looking forward to seeing what everyone else gets up to in the collab, and we'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.